Hey everyone, welcome back to Integrative Psychonautics. Hope you're doing well out there. So in today's video, I wanted to just kind of take a couple minutes here and explain to you a bit about the different approaches to change, right? So there's a couple things I wanted to communicate in this video, but most particularly, I want to talk about kind of the different ways that we can go with change work and really demystify this, because I think a lot of people out there probably think that all forms of personal development and therapy and spiritual growth and all of that are all designed to generally do the same thing. And that's simply not the case. There are actually very different kind of strategies or directions that we're working in with different types of approaches and different tools and techniques. So I want to just kind of give you a little more clarity, a little more awareness around that, so you can understand perhaps what you need, or perhaps, you know, what you've been using or engaged in, and where that fits into the kind of larger picture of different growth tools and healing tools. So there are a couple different distinctions I want to make. The first one I want to make here with you is that not all therapy is actually organized around helping you change or heal or get better or grow. I know that might sound a little crazy. It might be like, what? Like, isn't the point of therapy to help you feel better, resolve your issues, get over it, you know, let go, feel better, right? To which I would say you would think so, right? You'd think that that's what therapy is supposed to do. But the reality of the situation is that there are a lot of forms of therapy and psychology and psychiatry that are actually not built around fundamentally helping you transform or heal or change. They're much more like symptom management. They're much more there to help you just kind of, like a Band-Aid, just kind of address the symptoms of the problem you're dealing with, have some strategies to help you maybe feel a little better, kind of, you know, just kind of help you get through things and kind of cope through, right? I mean, obviously this is how medication is used a lot. It's not really there to heal you. It's there to help you cope with the symptoms of your issue so that you can just kind of keep going in this kind of, you know, low functioning coping state, basically, right? So there's a whole huge chunk, understand, there's a whole huge chunk of therapy that is that, right? That isn't about healing or change or transformation. Then there is a whole other kind of section of therapy that is about healing and change and transformation. And in that world, there are kind of two major directions to go. And I want you to understand this, because I think it's really easy to end up pursuing some technique or fall into some school of thought that works in one direction, but maybe you need the other, or maybe you need both, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So let me just kind of make the distinction here. Generally speaking, there is generative change, and then there is remedial change, right? Now, what most of you probably think of when you think of healing issues, therapy, resolving stuff, letting go of the past, feeling better, generally that's what's called remedial change, right? So remedial change is when we're looking for some sort of a remedy, right? Some sort of a healing, some sort of a restoration of places where maybe we didn't learn certain lessons, didn't grow, where we got traumatized, where we got stuck, where we have a wound that needs addressing, that's kind of impacting the way we process life. That's all remedial change. So, you know, trauma work, a lot of psychotherapy, even a lot of coaching, if we're going to be honest here, hypnotherapy, a lot of that is designed to help you kind of, you could think of it as plugging in the holes or plugging in the gaps or fixing the things that are kind of low functioning in ourselves and improving these kind of baseline things so that we feel better and our average kind of baseline feels better. So that's one form of change. Very important. A lot of tools and techniques are built around remedial change. There's also a whole other school of approach to things too. And the spoiler alert here is that my opinion is that we really should be using all of these. So we should be using remedial change wherever necessary, but we should also be using this other thing, which is generative change, right? So generative changes are what it sounds like. They are new growth, right? So they are generating new layers of your being. They are expanding your capacities, expanding your tool set, growing in your capabilities, developing new skills, growing new aspects of yourself at an unconscious level. So leveling up, creating new vision for yourself, creating new sense of possibility for yourself, putting yourself into new situations, allowing your unconscious mind to generate new solutions and new views to things that you had never thought of before. So it's much more additive, expansive, kind of growing out. You can almost think of it the first one, remedial, as being like perhaps fixing up the foundation of a house, fixing up some of the old framing of a house if it was kind of got crooked or out of alignment, something wasn't quite right. Whereas generative change is much more like building a second layer to your house, building a second level, remodeling the kitchen, or, that might be more remedial, expanding your yard, right? That kind of a thing. And so both are necessary is my message here. I know I'm talking in circles, repeating myself, but important to say, both are necessary, right? So if you're someone who's coming from a history of trauma and you're trying to work through a bunch of shit, and you're interested in psychedelics because you know that they have this potential to heal, right? A lot of probably what you're expecting and wanting is going to be remedial change. And that's a particular mindset, that's a particular set of tools, that's a particular level of commitment. And then, a lot of times when you interact with the psychedelic world or the new age world or the kind of Instagram spiritual world or even the more legit spiritual practice world, the personal development world, your Tony Robbins kind of stuff, any of that, a lot of what you're going to find there is actually more generative than remedial, right? And so it's important to know the difference. And a lot of times we have these experiences in psychedelics that are actually more generative, right? So you might go take a psychedelic hoping to have like an epiphany about this moment, an event that happened in your life that you've forgotten that maybe was traumatic and shaped you in some way or something like this, right? And what ends up happening is you have this whole new reframe on your understanding of what reality is and who you really are, and that you're not your narrative and you're not your story, and you're actually a spiritual being and a body and all that, right? So that's a very generative experience, which may not meet the needs of this kind of remedial work, right? As another example here, you may be chasing all these generative experiences. Like the classic example would be spiritual bypassing, where people are chasing these bliss experiences and these healthy lifestyle, and they're eating well and they're doing yoga and they're getting sun and they're traveling and they're dancing and they're playing and, they're doing their spiritual practices, but yet their fucking pattern, their shitty pattern of, pain or suffering or negative emotions or some crappy behavior that they have, some attachment wounding they have, still there, right? And all these kind of generative, expansive, things that can be transformative of life and healing haven't yet reached and been the thing that really created, addresses what's a remedial need. Right. So it's really important to understand both of these and to open your mind to the full wide palette, because sometimes, sometimes you need a remedial solution. Often you need a remedial solution for a remedial problem, generative solution for a generative problem. There are also sometimes where one is the answer to the other. Right. For example, sometimes with a remedial piece, we may get to a place where it's like, I need to be able to imagine a new way of life for myself, a new way of living, a new way of being, a new outcome, a new thing. And I can't even imagine it, right? Or I need a solution to this particular piece, and I don't even know what that solution would be or what that would look like. And that might be where a more generative piece of transformation is actually more useful and can fill in the gaps or help you really understand this remedial challenge in a whole other way. Right. And so I want to just kind of start to plant this seed, put this idea in your consciousness of the difference between the two. And my belief, as an integrative psychonaut, right, would be to really be full spectrum about that we want to bring all of that to the table and be engaging both in remedial healing wherever it's appropriate or necessary, but also in generative growth wherever that's appropriate and necessary. So yeah, that's it. That's the message. That's a video. I hope this is helpful to you in some way. And thanks for watching. Take care. Much love to you all. Be well.